Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters was a strategic and military analyst on Fox News for 10 years, but he recently left the network, blasting their role in the pro-Trump, pro-conspiracy theory, anti-government feedback loop. Colonel Peters joins me for his first on-camera interview since his departure in a moment. It's significant that Colonel Peters is here tonight because that feedback loop, which President Trump has tapped into and used so effectively to disrupt and discredit the Russia investigation, well, that feedback loop was broken today, even as the president was tweeting out the latest variation on the notion that the Obama administration, James Comey, the corrupt FBI, the Justice Department leadership, the deep state, whomever, planted one or more spies in his campaign. The cycle was broken. And keeping him honest, it was done first by two leading members of his own party, then late tonight by a third Republican lawmaker, a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Now, this all concerns, of course, that confidential FBI source who spoke with three members of the Trump campaign. Two of them already had existing or suspected ties to Russian intelligence. Former FBI agents we've spoken to have called what happened completely routine, discreet even. So have former federal prosecutors and former intelligence chiefs, Republican-appointed intelligence chiefs. So have top Democrats on the House and Senate Intelligence Committees who've seen the classified documents describing those meetings. And just a few days ago, as you probably know, Republican Congressman Trey Gowdy, who was briefed on this source, took the first GOP cut at the president's conspiracy theory.
I am even more convinced that the FBI did exactly what my fellow citizens would want them to do when they got the information they got, and that it has nothing to do with Donald Trump.
Well, Congressman Gowdy certainly has influence, but he's no Paul Ryan, who as House Speaker wields enormous power, including over how the House side of the Russia probe is conducted. He's conspicuously avoided speaking out on this until today. Here's what he said.
Right before the recess, you sat in a briefing with Trey Gowdy, who came out afterwards and said that he's more convinced that the FBI did exactly what my fellow citizens would want them to do. Do you agree with Trey Gowdy?
Yeah, normally I don't like to comment on classified briefings. Let me say it this way. I think Chairman Gowdy's initial assessment is accurate. I think, but we have some more digging to do. We're waiting for some more document requests. We have some more documents to review. We still have someone answer questions, but I have seen no evidence to the contrary of the initial assessment that Chairman Gowdy has made. But I want to make sure that we run every lead down and make sure we get final answers to these questions.
There's more digging to do, but he sees no evidence the FBI did anything wrong with respect to this confidential source at this point. Nor does Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman Republican Richard Burr, who also spoke out today, saying, quote, "I think that Trey Gowdy's description of the process was correct." Nor does House Intelligence Committee member Tom Rooney, who told Politico today, "What is the point of saying that there was a spy in the campaign when there was none?" One voice not heard today was Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, who, as you know, is seen as one of the president's enablers on this and other conspiracy theories. He told CNN's Manu Raju today that he does not comment on committee business. Earlier tonight, in a CNN exclusive, I spoke with retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, who, as I said, recently left Fox News and Fox Business News after 10 years as a strategic and military analyst. He laid out the reasons in a piece for the Washington Post, the reasons for leaving, writing, "Today's Fox primetime lineup preaches paranoia, attacking processes and institutions vital to our republic and challenging the rule of law." He went on to write, "As Fox's assault on our constitutional order intensified, spearheaded by its after-dinner demagogues, I had no choice but to leave. My error was waiting so long to walk away." This is Colonel Peters' first on-camera interview since leaving Fox. I spoke to him a short time ago. Colonel Peters, this so-called Spygate conspiracy theory, it wasn't just the president pushing the narrative. It wasn't just his allies in Congress. It was also Fox News. They talk about a witch hunt. I know you believe the witch hunt is actually against Robert Mueller, and it's being led by Fox News.
Yes, indeed I do. I mean, Robert Mueller is as noble, and I use that word carefully, as noble a public servant as you will find. And the assaults upon his character, upon his practices, upon his investigation, just betray our fundamental principles.
In the email that you sent to your colleagues at Fox News back in March when you told them you weren't renewing your contract, you said, and I quote, "Fox News is assaulting our constitutional order and the rule of law while fostering corrosive and unjustified paranoia among viewers." How much damage do you believe they've done to this country and the institutions that uphold the law?
Well, I think they're doing a great deal of damage still. We won't know how bad for years to come when we see the ultimate results. But Anderson, for years, I was glad to be associated with Fox. It was a legitimate conservative and libertarian outlet, and a necessary one. But with the rise of Donald Trump, Fox did become a destructive propaganda machine. And I don't do propaganda for anyone. And frankly, You know, as a former military officer, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And I saw, in my view, Fox, particularly the primetime hosts, attacking our constitutional order, the rule of law, the Justice Department, the FBI, Robert Mueller, and oh, by the way, the intelligence agencies. And they're doing it for ratings and profit. And they're doing it knowingly, in my view, doing a grave disservice to our country.
Do you think, you know, some of the hosts who in prime time, do you think they believe the stuff they're saying about the deep state, what they're saying about the Department of Justice, about the FBI?
Well, I suspect Sean Hannity really believes it. The others are smarter. They know what they're doing. It's bewildering to me. I mean, I wanted to just cry out and say, how can you do this? How can you lie to our country? How can you knowingly attack our Constitution, the bedrock of our system of government, the bedrock of our country? And when you go after the Constitution, you'd best beware, because you are doing phenomenal, indeed immeasurable damage.
Do you think we're heading to a constitutional crisis?
I think we're in a constitutional crisis right now. And it will end up either, barring unforeseen circumstances, either with impeachment or before the Supreme Court, or both. But when you have a president who believes he is above the law, who does not understand our system of government, does not respect our system of government, and willingly subverts our system of government, you've got a constitutional crisis. I mean, Anderson, when the Founding Fathers in the Declaration of Independence wrote that all men are created equal, they knew that we're not all born with the same good looks or the same intelligence or even the same privileges, the same strength and talents. They were sons of the Enlightenment. They meant we are all equal before the law. No man is above it. No man falls below it. Our president seems to genuinely believe that he is above the law. And this is a situation we haven't been faced with before with this administration. Even Senator Joseph McCarthy, in his witch hunt days, never directly attacked the Constitution. This is utterly unprecedented.
You've referred to it as sort of a cult of Trump.
Yeah, I think a lot of Trump supporters are so embarrassed by how it's all turned out that they just cling to him. They won't let any facts penetrate their reality. I've been startled by relatively well-educated people, and I know, and some military veterans, who still insist that Trump can do no wrong, that he's some sort of messiah. And I'm afraid I part company with their views.
You actually trained in Russian studies, the Russian language. You have firsthand experience with how Russian intelligence operates. Do you believe that Vladimir Putin has some kind of grip on President Trump?
I am convinced that Vladimir Putin has a grip on President Trump. And Anderson, when I first learned of the Steele dossier, it just rang true to me, because that's how the Russians do things. And before he became a candidate or president, Donald Trump was the perfect target for Russian intelligence. Here's someone who has no self-control, a sense of sexual entitlement, and intermittent financial crises. I mean, that's made to order for seduction by Russian intelligence. And look, I may be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Putin doesn't have a grip on him. But the dossier rings true. I think in the future, we're going to look back on the much maligned Christopher Steele, who took that dossier to the FBI, as something of a hero. And again, I hope I am wrong, but when you look at Trump's behavior patterns, his unwillingness ever to criticize Vladimir Putin, his slow-rolling sanctions, his unwillingness to create problems with Russia, even though as he attacks NATO, disrupts relations with the EU, how can you not draw the conclusions that Donald Trump, the President of the United States, is frightened of Vladimir Putin and his grip?
So for you, the Mueller investigation is critical. It moving forward, it being allowed time to complete.
Without exaggeration, the Mueller investigation is the most important of my lifetime. And I am 66 years old. I lived through Watergate. This is, again, Anderson, it's about a fundamental assault on the Constitution by the President of the United States and his paladins. It cannot get graver short of a world war.
Colonel Peters, I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Anderson.